All right, so let's move back, and we already did this lab, so just let me refresh so that everything's nice and cool. Let's stop this scan, cancel. Yep. So this lab is solved. It says continue. Let's continue. And using machine readable documentation, you can use a range of automated tools to analyze any machine readable API documentation that you find. You can use burp scanner to crawl and audit open API documentation. Okay, you can use a burp scanner or any other documentation in JSON YAML format. You can also parse OpenAI documentation using the Open API Parser B app. So it's like a tool which is integrated into PubSuite, so you can use that. You may also be able to use specialized tool to test documented endpoints like Postman or SOAP UI. So this is like slowly it's progressing towards good things. So now we're gonna do is identifying API endpoints. So you can also gather a lot of information by browsing applications to use the API. This is often worth doing even if you have access to the API documentation, as sometimes documentation may be incorrect. You can use burp scanner, we know that. While browsing the API, look for patterns that suggest, such as API, that like we did in the last lab. Also look out for JavaScript files. These contains a lot of references about APIs. In hacking, there's a term JavaScript is like the most juiciest things you can look out for, because it has a lot of API representations. So that you haven't triggered directly by the web application, burp scanner automatically extracts some endpoints during crawls. But for more heavyweight extraction, use the JS link finder B app. You can manually review JavaScript files in burp. That's good. Interacting with the APIs. Once you have identified API endpoints, like we did in the last lab, interact with them using burp repeater. We did the same. Use burp intruder. We haven't used it now, but most probably we would be doing it in the next labs. This enables you to observe the API's behavior, how exactly it behaves if some has authentication mechanisms, rate limit mechanisms, and discover additional attack surface. For example, you could investigate how the API responds to changing an HTTP method and media type, because sometimes we're gonna change the media time as well from HTML to maybe we're using XML, from application XPHP, and a lot of things happen. As you interact with the API endpoints, review error messages and other responses clearly. Sometimes these include information that you can use to construct a valid HTTP request. That's good. Then identifying supported HTTP methods. So mostly we have the get method, patch method, like to change the resource. Options method tell us that what sort of requests we can apply on that particular resource. So an API endpoint may support different HTTP methods. That's true. It's therefore important to test all potential methods when you are investigating API endpoints. The endpoint API tasks may support get method. That's getting information. Post means we are creating something new. Delete means, okay, we are deleting API task. That's with the number one. We can use built-in HTTP verbs list in burp intruder to automatically cycle through range of methods. So when we open burp intruder, so you can use the inbuilt version of these things, so as to get a lot of scope about what exactly needs to be done. So it tells that, okay, you can use built-in HTTP verbs from this inbuilt thing. We would get to know how exactly to use things. And when testing HTTP methods, target low priority objects. This helps make sure that you avoid unintended consequences, because if you directly try delete, okay, on the base user, so if there's no proper protection, you might end up deleting the entire database of the application. That's like a crime, to be honest. But yeah, no one's gonna protect you. Then identifying supported content types. This is really important, because some securities might be available for a particular content type while the other might not be available for the other content type. So yeah, API endpoints often expect data in a specific format. They may therefore behave differently depending upon the content type of the data provided in the request. Changing the content type may enable you. That's what I said. They might have different permissions. Trigger errors that disclose useful information. That's are known as information disclosure through error messages. We can bypass some defenses, take advantage of differences in processing logic. A website may process JSON differently and XML differently, which could lead to some sort of injection attacks. To change the content type, modify the content type header, then reformat the request body accordingly. You can use the content type converter B app to automatically convert data submitted within request between XML and JSON. So they're talking a lot about these things. So what we can do is, let me find the store. It's usually over here. Okay, so this is like the extensions. So what you can do is, if you want to see something, go over here, and if they say okay, you need to use the B app, so just search for it. If it's a famous extension, you can find it right here. Sometimes the name of things change, so you can just always cross check. And if they are like using some sort of different tools, so you can always Google and get those tools. There's nothing difficult about that particular thing. So it works, this tool works like Derbuster, and it's for the burp suit scanner. There are a lot of tools. We would discover it for sure. So it's like a report generator. There's a lot of tools. If there's no usage of these tools, I really don't rely on tools. So yeah, we would see if it's like a necessary thing to do this. But yeah, so this is the second lab, which says finding and exploiting an unused API endpoint. To solve the lab, exploit a hidden API endpoint. To buy a lightweight leather jacket, you can log in into your own account using the following credentials. So to solve this lab, you need to know how to use error messages to construct valid request. Okay, how HTTP methods are used by RESTful APIs. Okay, how changing the HTTP methods can reveal additional functionality. Okay, I'm not gonna see the solution. Let's jump straight into it so that we have absolute clarity of what we are dealing with. Because if I would see the request straight away, you guys might not understand how we do in things where we have absolutely no clarity of what we are dealing with. So always trust pre-login and post-login. Means what things I am getting when I do this thing before logging in. So if I click on this view details, I might get a request over saying like get product ID 1. Okay, I get a request like this. I took it to repeater, let it go. Then it says get API product 1 price. I would save it as well. Okay, so these are some sort of requests which I got. Firstly, I would try testing these requests. So if I say options to see what requests are available with me, so it says method not allowed, means options method is not allowed, the patch method is allowed. Means we can make partial changes to this account with the patch method. And it says unauthorized, means as a normal user we cannot use the patch method. Fine, try changing this to post method not allowed. Okay, if we go over here, we use patch method not allowed, because for these things only the get method is allowed. That means somehow we need to log in. Let's do that. This is a step by step approach. I'm building your mindset rather than just going through the solution straight away, because I haven't done these labs before. uh, I am just building your mindset of doing things. So if I log in, okay, perfect. I have a store credit of this, and our main thing which we gonna do is understand how the logic is working. It's not necessary that the flaw is into the store mechanism. A flaw might be in the cart mechanism as well. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with testing this. My account, I take this into repeater. Every API request you get, take it into repeater. So it says store credit is this. Fine. I got this request where it says my account ID is Wiener. Try using options. In the options, it says pretty much nothing. It's like a default thing. If I use put, mm, not really changing anything. That might be because we are not directly seeing the APIs of things. So if I write API, it says not found. That means they are not directly using this API thing to deal with things. They are using some different format. Fine. I'm not going to see the solution. I repeat again. I might be a little slow, but I want to develop your mindset. So if I just go on this now and I add this thing into my cart, add to cart. So where it says post cart quantity, this, right? Get product ID product one. I'm gonna save this. Now this is different than the earlier request just because we are logged in now. There is a cookie at the end. If there is no proper authentication, we might change some things. So over here it says get API product one price. What if I use patch? When I use patch, it says content type error, only application JSON content type is recommended. Now why it gave this error is because the content type we might be using in this particular thing is not right supported. So if I say content type, first of all, see if there's a content type. There's no content type, so we're gonna add this line. Preferably, you should, what you should do is, like, an ideal way of doing this thing is that always put it something like after the accept coding. Do this and use this content type like the application JSON. Earlier it was saying okay, you are not allowed, but now it's leaking some error. So I say patch body is empty, right? So now it's giving me some error that okay, the body is empty. That means we need to have something in the body. Now if I want to change something, I say okay, price one. Preferably I'm just testing. It says error could not parse JSON. Now means it's depending upon the JSON format, so it wants a curly bracket around this particular thing. So it says okay, price parameter must be a valid non-negative integer, right? That means price is fine, but it should be a non-negative integer, or maybe it's using double at the back end. So we have solved it halfway through. We just need to understand a few things. If I write get is a good method to understand how exactly things are working. So it gave me a lot of information about the JSON structure, how exactly they are working. So when I write get, it showed me how at the back end this variable is stored. Get price methods. So I write it in this format, close the curly bracket, and I say it like this: patch. Okay, patch. So the only error we are facing is with this price endpoint. All right, I'm getting the context of things. Hopefully it doesn't need this thing. Sometimes I don't need this thing, right? Sometimes all they want is a value over here. Hmm. Parameter must be a valid non-negative integer. Now the only thing we are not able to find out is what's this, how they are treating this non-negative integer thing, right? So what we can do is, when it's fetching the price, or maybe we can test some things over here as well, because if we can manipulate things, we can manipulate it on a lot of endpoints. Product ID, product quantity, right? So posts, I'm trying that if I can add something to the cart with a lesser price, if that's being done. So I delete everything from my cart for now. I am deleting everything. And over here I say and price is equal to 1. Does that make a difference? Does something got added into my cart for just 1? Preferably no. So that means I'm reducing my attack surface area. That's how you do things. When you do things like this, you need to keep reducing your attack surface area so that exactly you know what you're dealing with, right? So that means this is preferably the thing we are looking for, but we are missing something. We are definitely missing something. Okay, so from this we know get method and patch method is allowed. This thing is clear. So if I click on get, if you open this in some browser, like here, it would show, okay, buy quick, we are low on stock, one purchased in the last 22 minutes. Preferably, if you look at this request, okay. So other thing could be like it wants a full message. It wants a full message, like with this thing. If I say like this, okay, patch this, it still says you want a valid integer and stuff like that. So I just do this. Not working. Not working. Okay, it's not working. Now definitely it means we are doing something wrong, because in hacking it's not how deep you go, it's like where you need to stop. So we know that okay, API endpoint is valid, API products is valid, right? If we say okay 1, that means we are dealing with the product 1, right? And why it sometimes don't get the information is because if you look at the structure, if I say okay 1, it says not found. But if I say okay price, it found some information. That means this thing modification needs to be done over here. We followed that okay, we need to do okay the content type like application JSON because it's in JSON format, but we are not able to find out where exactly we are doing wrong. At this point you should take a hint. Why I say you should take a hint is because we have solved it halfway through, right? See, it's the same request. I'm going slowly just because I know I'm on the right path. API products, we need this jacket, which they say over here to solve the lab. lightweight LTT. Yeah, just check it. And we analyze that we need to get the patch method. Then we know we need to change the application type to JSON, right? Then we also know about the price parameter. The only mistake we were doing is the only mistake we did in this particular thing is that we were adding integer values, whereas it was not right. So we were writing 1 2, but for this lab it was meant to be like 0. So rest everything we already found out. So when we write 0, see, when we were writing 1, it wasn't accepting, right? It wasn't accepting. The only change we made here is right curly brackets, and we need not to take these values in the double quotes. So if we say 0, that means the price of this jacket on the website is 0 now. And if we add this into the cart, it would be for rupees 0, right? And if you place order, your lab would be solved because you solved it, right? So we did this entire thing without any hints. The only thing you should know about this thing is that you should don't take it in brackets. Rest everything's good. So we can do it by manually exploring everything, and your best practice should be manually visiting all the HTTP requests, so you're good to go. So see you in the next lab, guys. Hope you're enjoying it. Thank you.